Welcome to the Leadership Purpose with Robin podcast. I'm your host, Robin L. Owens, PhD, and this is where we dive in each week to give advice, tools, and tips for high-achieving women leaders, and we talk about leadership purpose and its importance for you. I am a college professor, and when I am not doing that, I am speaking, writing, coaching, mentoring, and teaching high-achieving women leaders how to find, and not only find, but how to stay in alignment with their leadership purpose so they can make a meaningful difference right there in their career, leadership, or business. Okay, let's dive in. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Leadership Purpose with Dr. Robin podcast. So glad you're here and sharing your time with us today. And today we have an awesome guest, in my opinion. She's going to say, don't say that, but I'm going to say she's an awesome guest. And her name is Tressa Pankovits. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Tressa. She's the co-director of Reinventing America's Schools, which publishes research on innovations needed to create 21st century models for public education. A lawyer with more than 10 years of experience in domestic and international education policy and operations, Tressa is a national thought leader for increased educational equity. She appeared on podcasts, webinars, and print, including the Washington Post, The Hill, and Real Clear Politics. She co-authored an important report, The Third Way, a guide to implementing innovation schools, which includes model legislation to ease the way for states and communities seeking to improve their public educational options through autonomy. Welcome, Tressa Pankovits.
Thank you so much, Robin. I'm delighted to be with you today.
I'm so glad you're here because for so many reasons, education is near and dear to my heart. And the work you're doing, I think, is so important. And I'm just honored to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much. It's just a great opportunity to get the word out about my work. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, great. So let's dive right in. So first, tell us about who you are and how you came to this work. You can tell any part of your story you want, but how you come to this work where you are today.
So I will start with a very personal part of my story, which is I grew up fairly poor. And there were no expectations for anyone in my family for college or higher education. And I had none myself. I was working as a bagger in a grocery store when my high school counselor came through my line on a Saturday morning and wanted to know why I was not taking the SAT. And I said, "What is the SAT?" And he said, "Come to my office Monday morning." And if that hadn't happened, my life may have taken quite a different course. I have always been grateful to have had the opportunity to go to college. As I said, no one ever expected it of me. And I think from the very beginning, I wanted to do work that was changing lives and making an impact as mine had been. I started out as a television reporter, determined to uncover corruption and corporate malfeasance and really change things. And I ended up covering the St. Patrick's Day parade and a lot of crime, and it just wasn't feeding my soul. From there, I went into politics thinking, well, maybe if I can help get better people elected, the world will change. And politics was not feeding my soul. So then I became a lawyer, and I thought I will advocate for the elderly, the underprivileged. And my timing was impeccable because the recession hit and I ended up working in a small litigation firm where one business was suing another business, and it was just ugly and all about money. And, you know, there's a reason for all those lawyer jokes. So that wasn't feeding my soul. But then by a very circuitous route, I came into education. So I finally found my purpose.
Wow. I love that. I love that. So how'd you finally find your purpose? You knew I was going to follow up with that one. That was like a cliffhanger for me.
Right. So I was practicing law for about 4 years when the effects of the Great Recession really, really hit the litigation sector. Clients were not paying their bills. They were bankrupting. It was terrible. And my job was eliminated. And so there I was, not young, and many thousands of law school dollar debt to my name, no job, no spouse, no safety net. So I sent resumes everywhere. And one place I sent a resume was to the superintendent of the New Orleans public schools, who I had known from covering the Chicago public schools as a television reporter. And I thought maybe he'll have something. And he remembered me and gave me a call, had nothing, but promised me that he would keep me in mind. And if anything came up, he would immediately give me a call. He was busy rebuilding the New Orleans public schools at the time after Hurricane Katrina. 2 weeks later, he called me and he said, "How would you like to go to Haiti?" I said, "What?" So the terrible earthquake had happened in Haiti. And because of his work in New Orleans, he had attracted the attention of the international NGO community and was asked to be the lead consultant on rebuilding the education sector in Haiti. He wasn't ready to leave New Orleans, but he said, "If you give me a budget for a project manager, I'll take it on." So I became his project manager. And about 3 weeks, a month later, I was living in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. And that was 2010. And I've never looked back. I worked with him on many international and domestic projects. We did a lot of great work together, and we went to Santiago, Chile. We went to the Sudan. We did some education projects domestically in the US. We worked with the Bureau of Indian Education. In the last year of the Obama administration, we did a project in the Federal Bureau of Prisons, trying to improve adult education offerings in the prisons to help with recidivism rates and help inmates start lives with a living wage skill. So that's kind of what cemented it for me. So now I am working at Reinventing America's Schools at Progressive Policy Institute. We are a Washington, D.C. think tank, but I like to call us a do tank. So I think that's probably enough background that your audience can take at this point.
I think it's good to hear your story about how, it helps us reflect on how life leads from one thing to another. Like you probably couldn't imagine at the time that, losing one job and it would lead you to this whole international impact that you've had and to lead you to where you are today. So it's good to hear the story. It's good to hear it.
Right.
And it's clear to me that by hearing your story, it's important to you to make a difference and to have work that feeds your soul. And I hear the passion in your voice when you're starting to talk about, So just tell us a little bit about what you're doing now, and then I'll go on to the next question.
Okay. So David Osborne is an author of a series of books. They all focus on trying to drag bureaucratic government systems into the 21st century. His most recent book was Reinventing America's Schools. And so our project, he founded our project, and it is named Reinventing America's Schools. And what we do is we advocate for what we call 21st century education systems. I think especially in this moment of the pandemic and all the school closures we've seen and all the strife at the school board meetings, I think pretty much everybody can agree that our school systems need at least some modernization, if not a complete overhaul. And we know that the children that are most affected by less than wonderful schools are low-income minority kids. So that's who we advocate for. We believe that parents should not be confined by zip code or school zone to one educational option for their children. And so we advocate for more school choice and for more parent power. And we do that usually through research, writing, op-eds. And since the pandemic, we have founded a very successful series of webinars and podcasts. So we have kind of gone a little bit more modern ourselves. I did just finish writing a big white paper on a real special subset of schools in the Fort Worth School District. But our goal is to catch the attention of policymakers, the decision makers who can make the change. So I like to think of myself as a combination ambassador for the certain type of brand of schools that we like, which would be innovation schools, partnership schools, charter schools, and a warrior. So ambassador on one side of the coin, warrior on the other. And of course, we're fighting the status quo, right? That's who we're fighting against. The bureaucracies that don't change, that don't serve students, that don't serve families. And there's a lot of negative forces out there that are very invested in keeping the status quo. So it's a tall mountain to climb. But every time I'm published, or every time somebody sends me an email and says, "Hey, could you send me that paper you wrote on?" I'm gonna take it to my boss. He's a state representative in Kansas or someplace. I feel like we're chipping away at a real big problem in this country.
Yes, yes. And doing it through your own thinking and doing, because you said it's not just a think tank, but you're doing, you're writing. Okay, so tell us what you enjoy most about your work and why.
Oh, there's just so many parts of my job that I like. So I guess I really like going out and visiting the schools. It is so inspiring to see these leaders who have created charter schools or innovation schools or partnership schools, and they've really created them out of thin air with nothing more than their own passion and their own determination to provide better educational opportunities for children. And the children that are mostly being served by this are Black and brown. So if I'm ever feeling kind of drained by the researching and the writing and the editing, or trying to herd cats to get a webinar panel together, all I have to do is go visit people that are really doing the work in the field, the real hard work, to feel inspired and renewed to be even a stronger advocate, a better cheerleader for them. And it also makes me realize that I've got it totally easy because I'm not dealing with 34th graders every day.
Right. Leave that to those who are gifted to do that part.
Yeah, so that's the part that really lights me up. And another thing is when I get to meet with somebody, quote unquote, important, a lawmaker, a legislator, somebody's chief of staff, and I feel like I'm kind of getting a light bulb moment from them that, oh, yeah, maybe it isn't right to consign generation after generation of children to this type of lackluster education. So yeah, it's great. It's very rewarding.
Yeah, it sounds like it. It sounds like it. It's very important work. And so you've had such a vast experience. You told us you were a television reporter and all the way up doing law and now in education in various ways and your international work. Now, given all that experience and so much more that we didn't hear about, I'm sure there's so much expertise you have. What can you share with those who are listening? And the podcast is for what I call high achieving women, women who are ambitious, professional, they have goals, usually the responsible ones, usually supporting everyone else because it's part of their role professionally and they do it personally. And so when I created the podcast, I said, wouldn't it be great to provide support for those women if they could just take one piece from other women who are doing just like that, regardless of their title, position, or role, but this characteristic of being sort of what I'm calling high achieving. So no matter what the background of the guest is, I always ask the guest, what's something from your experience and your expertise? One word of advice to the woman that I just described. What would you say?
Fake it till you make it.
Say more about that.
So I mentioned I came from a very humble background, and now I'm leading this project at a think tank in Washington, D.C., 2 blocks from the White House. Not to overblow our impact or our importance, but I mean, that is a long journey. And along the way, I was at various times or another in a lot of different rooms with predominantly men, predominantly people who were older than me, predominantly people who may have more experience in a particular field than me. Try being a baby lawyer in the Cook County, Chicago court system and trying to argue a case against a guy who's been doing it for 25 years, right? But if you don't have the confidence, fake the confidence, and the confidence will come. You just have to keep internalizing that feeling of confidence. And I don't mean overconfidence where you're getting out over your skis and trying to talk about things that you don't really know about, but just reaching in way down and stiffening up your spine and giving yourself pep talk after pep talk after pep talk in your head. It will get you to where you want to go.
Yes. Pep talk Pep talk, pep talk. Yes, I gave myself a pep talk today, actually, earlier this morning. So yes, that makes a lot of sense. All right. So now, as you know, my work has to do with leadership purpose. So when you hear the term leadership purpose, what comes to your mind?
For me, it's emotional energy. If you are approaching work that makes you feel emotion, whether it's inspiration or passion or even an emotion like a little bit of intimidation, this might be too big for me, then you are coming to work with a purpose. You're not bored. It's not mundane. Anything that's the opposite of that. That's what leadership purpose means to me.
Yes, I love that emotional energy. I've not heard that before. I love that because I'm always thinking about energy in general. So I love that. And given what you said, do you think having leadership purpose is important?
Absolutely. And I think my very meandering, twisty, turny career track is evidence of that. I had no leadership purpose as a practicing attorney. Now, don't get me wrong. I loved law school and I ate it up. I loved learning all the, the little ins and outs. It was just amazing. But when I became a lawyer and actually had to deal with other lawyers all day long, I did not have that emotional energy. And luckily, fate for me sent me in another direction. But if it hadn't, I would like to think that I would have had the courage to do it on my own.
Yes, yes. And to think about how your journey led you to this place of, because you said in the beginning, it didn't satisfy your soul. And so you got to the point where you have soul satisfying work.
And I am doing something that it just feels so important to me. I mean, the children are the future, right? And especially in this moment in time when education has been so disrupted, and I'm so fearful. And we all know that it's going to be the children at the bottom of the economic totem pole that are going to suffer the most. And, if I could have a 48-hour day to work on anything I could do to advance their cause, I would take it.
Yeah, that's true passion and purpose. Tressa, this has been a wonderful conversation. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you'd like to, that something popped in your mind? And you said, let me just say this one more thing.
I would just like for your listeners to keep this issue in America in the back of their minds, because they're all smart people. They're all driven people. They're successful. And we have a generation that's coming up right now that's going to need support. And so I just hope that people will focus on this problem a little bit, or let's call it an issue, and keep it in the back of their minds that it's important.
Okay. Well, thank you. And thank you for those words. Now, how can people be in touch with you if they want to be in touch with you?
So our website is www.progressivepolicy.org. And on there, you will see a tab that says projects. And if you click that tab, you will see Reinventing America's Schools. And my bio is on there. My contact is on there. And I'm very open to being contacted by anybody that's interested.
Fabulous. And I'll make sure that's in the show notes. Tressa, thank you so much for being here and sharing your journey and doing this important work that you're doing. So glad you're here.
The honor's all mine. Thank you so much.
Okay, everyone, this is the end of our episode. And if you want to be in touch with me, you can contact me on my website, robinlowens.com. But I really love it if you would contact me by social media, all channels, and just let me know what you appreciate about the podcast or any comments you have about the podcast. And that is at Robin L. Owens, PhD, Robin L. Owens, PhD, all social media channels, Robin L. Owens, PhD. Okay, until next time, this is Dr. Robin. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Leadership Purpose with Robin podcast. If you enjoyed it, head on over and rate and subscribe so you never miss an episode. New episodes drop every week, and I can't wait to hang out with you again soon. Meanwhile, this is Robin signing off. See you next time.